Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our late afternoon update. I'm Victoria Holmes here in the digital studio. North Carolina officials say the state has distributed more than $2.6 billion in coronavirus relief funds. Governor Cooper established a pandemic recovery office to oversee and coordinate the state's financial response to the pandemic. NC Pro oversaw a distribution of $3.5 billion in federal coronavirus relief funds. The money went to state agencies, local governments, nonprofit groups, hospitals, schools, and research. To see where the funds were distributed, visit WNCT.com. Democratic lawmakers want an investigation and hearings on the Pentagon's spending of up to $1 billion meant for PPP and COVID-19 tests. Alexandra Limon from Washington has more.
Democratic lawmakers are demanding investigations into reports that the Pentagon took $1 billion in taxpayer money meant for PPE and COVID-19 testing and spent it on body armor and jet engine parts.
It's outrageous that the Pentagon would take $1 billion away from one of the most powerful tools we have to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
In a statement, the Defense Department calls the issue a misunderstanding and says the CARES Act didn't require the Defense Department to spend the extra $1 billion only on medical resources.
It's absolutely absurd.
Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley says everyone understood that the money was meant for PPE and testing.
And for the Defense Department to grab that to do just the traditional, let's build the defense empire routine when Americans are dying is an enormous betrayal of trust.
Republican Senator Mike Rounds says he spoke with Defense Department officials.
They thought they were following the intent of the law, which would have allowed them to try to advance pay on some of their smaller contractors that otherwise may have gone out of business.
Still, Rounds says the Senate will likely investigate.
They'll probably end up having some hearings on it within the Armed Services Committee.
Rounds also said the Government Accountability Office is already investigating the matter. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Republican Senator Tom Tillis is in Greenville holding a roundtable discussion with law enforcement leaders at Parker's Barbecue. He's also scheduled to talk to campaign volunteers at the Republican Party field office in Pitt County. North Carolina is considered a toss-up state, and both Senate candidates are tied in the latest ECU research poll. We'll have a look at Tillis' campaign stops on WNCT News at 5 and 6 p.m. The first debate of the presidential race between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden is tonight. The debate starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The debate is in Cleveland and will be the first of 3 face-offs between the Democratic Party's nominee and the Republican incumbent. Tonight's expected topics include the president's tax records, the Supreme Court, coronavirus, the economy, race and violence in the United States, and the integrity of the election. And before tonight's debate, be sure to tune in to What the Politics, a weekly podcast show hosted by fellow WNCT reporter Emily Severich and I. Today's guest is Dr. Peter Francia, the Director of Survey Research at ECU. We talk about the history of presidential debates, the impact it has on voters, and the historic face-offs since the first debate. Here is a preview.
Obviously, the larger point is that, when the citizenry is not engaged and not informed about the issues that affect them in the political arena, then there are consequences for governing. You can literally go back all the way to the election of 1800 and find evidence of below the belt politics. So it's a part of the fabric of a system that has contested, seriously competitive and contested elections, and that's sort of a hallmark of a democracy.
Thank you for tuning in to our late afternoon update. I'm Victoria Holmes here in the digital studio.